Namaste everyone. How are you? Welcome back to your social science class. So, in the last video, we have discussed about the story of Nepal, wherein we have seen that how the Nepal constitution was changed and why it was changed, because earlier it was a monarchy, but now people, they wanted democracy, they struggled for democracy, and that is why democracy was adopted in Nepal. And it reflects one of the purpose of constitution, that the constitution lays out certain ideals which the people of the country aspire for. Like the Nepal people, they aspired for democracy, hence the constitution was changed and all the democratic principles were mentioned in their constitution. Then we have also seen the other purposes of constitution, and we were doing the key features of Indian constitution, right? And we have covered two features. One was federalism and another one was parliamentary form of government. So you know what is federalism, that it is the division of power between different level of government, or we can say among different tiers of government. So it means there is the existence of more than one level of government. If we talk about India, we have three tiers or three level of government, that is center, state and local. Now center government, it was responsible for issues of national importance. Now the state, it looks after the day-to-day administration. And if we talk about local, it is the level of government which is at the grassroots level, and in rural areas it is called panchayats, and in urban areas it is famous as municipalities. And all these level of government, they have certain authority, they have certain powers. Now who has given these powers to these level of government? It is the constitution. This question is often asked, that the different level of government, they draws authority from dash. This is the fill in the blank. So you will write, it is the constitution which provides the power to these level of government. Then we also discussed about parliamentary form of government. What we have seen? We have seen that in parliamentary form of government, we have elected representatives. These elected representatives, they are elected by the citizens, that is we the people of India, we elect our representatives through elections and voting. And the process is universal adult suffrage, that is the people who are of the age of 18 or above have the right to vote. And these elected representatives or our leaders, they are accountable to the people, that is they are answerable to us for all their actions. Now we will discuss about the third feature of Indian constitution. The important feature is separation of power. This is a very important key feature of our Indian constitution, which means that the power in India is not concentrated in one hand. What I just said, that the power in India, it is not in one hand. ऐसा नहीं है कि all the power is with this central authority. Rather, the power has been distributed among three organs of government. This organ is also having power, this is also having power, this is also having power. Right? So this is the power, and it is not under one hand. Rather, it has been horizontally distributed among three organs of government. These are called three organs of government. That is legislature, executive and judiciary. So we have three organs of government. They are legislature, executive and judiciary. And in India, we do not have the concentration of power in one hand. Rather, there is a horizontal distribution of power between these three level of government. Now what does legislature means? Legislature is that organ which makes laws. See, the name itself suggests legislature means the one who legislate. And what does legislate means? Legislate means to make laws. So legislature is the organ which make laws. We know that different laws are made in our country. In our daily lives, we see sometimes a new law is coming regarding, say, the reservation policy. Sometimes a new law is coming regarding the citizenship of India. So all these laws are made by legislature. Okay, and you know parliament में laws बनते हैं. So parliament is the legislature in India, means the laws are made there. Then we have executive. What is executive? It is that organ of government which implement the laws. Implement the laws means the laws which are made by the legislature, those laws are implemented by executive. Means the laws which have been created by legislature, they are written by the legislature, but these laws need to be turned into reality. So these laws are turned into actions, these laws are turned into reality by executive. And the government, it is the main executive, right? Government is called the executive branch of our country because it is the government who implement the laws. So legislature ने law बनाया and those laws are turned into the actions by executive. So it implement the laws, or we can also say that it execute the laws. Fine. Then judiciary, it is the system of courts. Judiciary is system of courts. That is, we have district courts, then we have high courts, then we have the apex court, which is the topmost court in our country, that is Supreme Court. Now we have division of power. You know, this is what separation of power means, ki legislature, executive, judiciary, these are having power. So this system is also called the system of check and balance. It is also called the system of check and balance. Why? Because all these organs of government, they are not subordinate to each other, they are independent, and hence they keep a check on each other. Executive will keep a check over the legislation, or we can say judiciary will keep a check over the legislature. Legislature and executive ke actions, they are being looked upon by the judiciary. So one organ keep a check on the other two and thus maintain a system of check and balance, and hence there is no misuse of power by any organ of the government. So this is written that this system is also called system of check and balance because one organ will keep a check over the other two, and hence it does not lead to any misuse of power and the system is smoothly run. Okay, so you should remember separation of power means these three organs. Then the next and the important again the feature of constitution is fundamental rights. Now what does fundamental right means? Fundamental rights, they are the essential rights, means they are very important rights. That is why they are called fundamental. Fundamental is something very basic, right? So these are the basic rights or the essential rights which are required for the overall development of individual. So for the well-being of the individual, for the proper development of individual, certain basic rights are required and they have been incorporated as fundamental rights in our Indian Constitution. Now, what these rights do, they act as the safeguard. What they do, they act as the safeguard for the citizens against the misuse of power by the state. It means that the state, that is the nation, it is not having unlimited power against the citizens. It might be possible sometimes say government is misusing its power, or we can say that it is having lots and lots of power, so it may misuse the power. So certain safeguards are provided to the citizen कि गवर्नमेंट अपनी पावर का मिसयूज़ ना कर सके. सो सर्टेन safeguards have been given to the citizens and they are in the form of fundamental rights. For example, just to avoid that government should not promote any inequality, there should be no inequality, so we have been given the fundamental right to equality. Suppose the government is stopping a particular person from entering into any government office or any government job because of his say gender or because of his caste. One authority is preventing the person to apply for some government job, so this is the misuse of power. Then we have the fundamental right as a safeguard because every person is having the right to equal opportunity in terms of government job. Every person, irrespective of their caste, religion, gender, place of birth, every person is having the right to have equal opportunity in government jobs. So these rights provide certain safeguard to the citizens which prevent them from the government power, or we can say it prevents the citizens from the misuse of the power by the government. Okay, so we have to read in detail about these fundamental rights, that what are these. We will read about all the 6 fundamental rights. As of now you understand that we have 6 fundamental rights. We will read in detail in the next video. Then along with this, there has been a small mention of the term DPSP in your book. It is not in detail, you don't have to study it in detail, but you just understand that what does it mean. What does DPSP means? DPSP means, the full form is Directive Principles of State Policy. It is Directive Principles of State Policy. It means that these are the general guidelines, or we can say these are the instructions which are given to the government when they form their laws or policies in the country. So when the government they form new policies, when they comes up with new laws, so these DPSP they act as the general guidelines or instructions to them while framing their new laws and policy. For example, one of the DPSP is that there should be equal wage for equal work. It is written that there should be equal wage for equal work. So it means whenever the government will make certain law regarding to this wages or salaries or employment, then they should always keep in their mind that they should make such a law which promotes the equal wage for equal work. Means there should be no discrimination on the basis of gender, and the person should get the equal salary for the work they are doing. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए that one person is getting 100 rupees for the same work, another is getting 120. Why? Because one person is male and another one is female. So this discrimination should not be there. So it is written in the DPSP that government should form certain laws which will promote this idea of equal wage for equal work. Similarly, we have many DPSPs. There are lots and lots of DPSP from Article 36 to Article 51. They all define DPSPs. So it is not in your syllabus. So you just remember that these are the guidelines which the government should keep in their mind while framing the laws. And why these DPSPs are mentioned? It is for the social welfare of the society. It is for the welfare of the citizens, for the well-being of the people. These DPSPs are incorporated in our Indian Constitution. So it is written that it serves as the guide to the government and it ensures greater social and economic reform. So to bring different social and economic reform in the society and to promote the general welfare and well-being of people, these DPSPs are there. Okay. The next feature of Indian Constitution is secularism. Secularism, you are going to read in detail about the secularism in the next chapter, because second chapter is this only, understanding secularism. As of now you understand that what does it mean. Secularism means that a particular state is called a secular state when it is not having any one religion as the state religion. Means in India we do not have any religion which can be called as the official religion of India. Do we have any religion? No, because in India all the religions are having equal rights. All the religions are equal in the eyes of law. So a secular state is the one in which state, that is the nation, does not officially promote any one religion as the state religion. हमारे इंडिया का कोई भी official religion नहीं है. हमारे यहाँ क्या है, we say सर्वधर्म संभव, because we respect all the religions and we protect the interest of all the religions, and we have not adopted any one particular religion as the religion of India, and that is what make India a secular country. If we talk about Pakistan, so Pakistan is having Islam as their official religion, so it is not secular, if we say. If we talk about the other, say the Central Asian countries, they are also not secular because they have officiated their religion as the state religion. So हमारे इंडिया में ऐसा नहीं कि हिंदू is the state religion or Islam is the state religion. No, we do not officiate any religion as the state religion. For us, all the religions are equal. We respect all religions and we protect the interest of all the religions. Okay. So this is what secularism means. Now at the end, I would like to tell you one important fact, that you must have seen that I have written here state, and this S is my capital S. Here it is, right? So when we say state, you should always remember that I'm not talking about the state governments. It is not government wala state. We have state governments, like we have central government, then we have state government. It is not that state. Here the state means the nation. So most of the time when we are talking about the nation, we write as state, and this is the capital S wala state. So if it is written capital S T-A-T-E state, then means we are talking about the nation as a whole and not about the state government. So there's a difference between the state governments and this state. This state means whole of the nation, that is the sovereign nation, is called state. So you should remember this capital S, and we generally denotes this state with capital S. If we write small s, then we mean that we are talking about the state governments. Generally, it has been accepted that we try to denote this capital S wala state for the nation, right? Now, another thing, I have told you about fundamental rights, that it is one of the key feature of our Indian Constitution, and also we are going to read about this in the next class in detail. Now, don't you think along with rights, duties come hand in hand? If we talk about fundamental rights, how can we skip about the duties? So, we must study about fundamental duties as well, because rights and duties, they both go hand in hand. They are the two different faces of the same coin. So, although these fundamental rights are not mentioned in your chapter, but being an aware citizen, you should know that we have certain fundamental rights. So Indian Constitution has defined 11 rights as the 11 duties as the fundamental duties. So I'm giving you one homework, that you read about these fundamental duties, these 11 fundamental duties, and you just tell me around 4 or 5 duties which you can understand, and you can draw a collage, or you can just write them down on the piece of paper and you can share the picture with me that you have read about the fundamental duties. So basically you have to illustrate 11 fundamental duties, and then you can even share your video or audio wherein you are telling some of those fundamental duties. Okay, so this is your homework, and revise this chapter. We will meet in the next class wherein we will discuss about fundamental rights. Till then, take care. Bye bye.